Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today, and we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject. We're going to be talking about the First Amendment and what's going on with our ability to have free speech. How is it being silenced? How is it being chilled? How are you being told you cannot speak up as a United States citizen? Now, this is a big deal, and we're going to get into it. But if this is the first time that you've seen the channel, first, thank you and welcome. And we do long-form political commentary on this channel. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you, talking about the issues that matter to everyone, not just in the United States, but around the world. And we allow you to speak to us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, DLive, all social media that the internet overlords allow us to be on, to allow you to speak and even to call into the program every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for anywhere around the world, please, we hope to see you join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that said, let's go to the issue of the day, something that you probably aren't thinking is a big deal. It's your free speech. It's your ability to say something. Most importantly, in the United States, unlike most everywhere else in the world, we have an absolute right to be able to speak, especially to speak to our politicians, to our government, to tell them what we think about the various issues, and to tell them how we wish to be governed. It is a unique thing in the world. And virtually no other nation has the ability to do this or to do it to the extent that American citizens do. It's one of the reasons why America is seen as a shining beacon of democracy around the world. We are the example the rest of the world tries to emulate and to match up to. And we see this whenever there's something happening in America. The world looks at how the American people are able to speak about it and what they do, and other nations take that into their governments to varying degrees. It's a very important thing. So the freedom of speech, the ability to criticize our political leaders is important. It is vital. And it is an essential element of the representative democracy that we have here in America. And it's under attack. It has been under attack for quite some time. And many Americans feel that they cannot speak, that they are being ostracized, that they are being denied the opportunity to be able to speak freely. Now, you may say to yourself, well, Mike, how can you be sure of that? What are the examples of that? Well, let's just look at what's been happening in New York State. According to the New York Post, in an article from January 18th of 2014, we see that Governor Andrew Cuomo was speaking to conservatives and individuals who are not part of the progressive left of New York State and told them, get out. Just leave. As we can see from the New York Post, they quoted him in saying that the problem with individuals who are not part of the Democratic Party, their problem isn't me and the Democrats, their problem is themselves. Who are they? Right to life, pro-Second Amendment, anti-gay. If that's who they are, they have no place in the state of New York because that's not who New Yorkers are. That's a very interesting statement. And let's think about this. What Governor Cuomo has said is their problem isn't me and the single-party Democratic rule of New York State in 2021. Let's consider what he said in 2014 and apply it to 2021. Governor Cuomo currently has 9 sexual assault allegations against him. 9. And according to the Me Too movement, the far left movement for women's rights, we've seen senators be removed for 1 allegation. We have seen businessmen and members of the news media and corporations and politicians on the basis of 1 allegation being removed from offices, being kicked out of companies, being ostracized, and in some cases this has led to further investigations of criminal actions, like Harvey Weinstein. But yet, Governor Cuomo remains in power. And he says, and he continues to say, as he did in 2014, that if you disagree with him, well, that's because you're a conservative, not because of his 9 sexual assault allegations. Well, let's look at this a little differently. It's also Governor Cuomo who has come under fire for lying to the American people, as has been confirmed, in denying that or hiding the fact that his regulations led to 16,000 people dying in New York in nursing homes that were not necessary deaths due to COVID-19. And it is admitted by his own staff that they withheld this information from the United States government as well as the American people, which would be corruption, which under New York Public Officer Law, Section 74, Item H, is enough to have him removed from office. And yet he still remains. And again, he continues to say, well, if you disagree, it's because you're a conservative and it's about politics, not his actions. And if you don't like it, get out the state. That's troubling. At the time, we had said that that was chilling to the First Amendment, that this was a violation of our First Amendment rights and our ability to speak out against our politicians who are doing things that we don't want them to do. Because all politicians in the United States are servants of the public, not the other way around. They serve us. They are obligated to follow their constituents and to do what the constituents wish, not to impose rules on constituents and force them to follow the guidelines of these neo-nobles that rule our states and our government for decades, if not half a century at a time. It's a big deal. Now, this is important, and we're bringing this up in 2014 as the example of what we're seeing today. So we want to go and focus on what we heard from U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Now, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is a member of the the Senate and represents New York State along with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand stated today on May 19th, she put out this statement on social media. So no one is being doxxed here. This is public documentation as seen on social media, on Facebook at this time. People have willfully put their names out there to make these comments that we are going to show you. Senator Gillibrand says, across our country, our highways are being battered by flooding, storm surges, wildfires, sea level rise, and other natural disasters caused by climate change. I'm introducing the Resilient Highways Act to protect our highway infrastructure. Many people found that to be a joke. Now, let's first address the fact that the United States and everywhere in the world is always being assaulted by Mother Nature. Hurricanes, floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes. It's called weather. It happens every day. Mother Nature has always, in the history of humanity, always had these things happen, and they always will. It is called Mother Nature. Now, whether or not global warming exists or not, and whether it is or is not created by man is not the point of this discussion. The fact is that we do want to speak about, and what we had spoke about directly to Senator Gillibrand, is the question of infrastructure. Now, to be very clear, Joe Biden has come out with an infrastructure plan. And in that plan, as reported by USA Today, they decided to show 4 charts to explain the $2 trillion in infrastructure spending proposed by Joe Biden. And they did so in 4 charts. And I think it's very telling that in chart 1, the very first thing you see is that the infrastructure spending is actually $621 billion. And then there's extra items that are being tagged into that. Now, and I say this very clearly, infrastructure, transportation, infrastructure. That is infrastructure. Infrastructure spending is on bridges, on roads, on the actual items that support the framework that supports the ability to travel, to have energy, to be able to have business, to be able to live in the United States. And he is looking to spend $621 billion. That is less than the total of the $2 trillion that is being proposed in spending. In fact, that would be about 1/3 to 1/4. It's a ridiculously small amount. And so therefore, we go to our comment with Senator Gillibrand. And we said to Senator Gillibrand, perhaps rather than tackling Mother Nature, you first reach the attainable and get BLM plot out of our highways and autonomous zones that violate every law in the nation and contribute to poverty and arson. Why not end the violence of Antifa, which is part of your party? Then actually fund infrastructure instead of a grab bag of Democratic wish fulfillment that has nothing to do with infrastructure. That was the statement we made, and we want to be very clear. We mentioned these things for a reason, because the autonomous zones that exist in America at this moment, the George Floyd Square Autonomous Zone that has been in existence for over a year, the autonomous zones in Seattle that were created and failed, the ones that were attempted in Atlanta that led to the death of a child, the ones that were attempted in Austin and in New York City, in Brooklyn. These are violations of our law, but also they are direct problems to our infrastructure. We often see BLM, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT, Citizen Action, and other far left fringe organizations blocking off highways, blocking off roads, stopping people from being able to go to work, from food being delivered to stores, from people being able to live their lives. We see this on a regular basis. We see that there are these autonomous zones that, again, stop business from being able to be conducted, from people from being able to live their lives. We see these autonomous zones violate every single law at the local, state, and federal level. These are facts. They are indisputable. They are absolutely true. And so we are suggesting to Senator Gillibrand, rather than trying to take on Mother Nature that has existed before mankind and will exist after mankind, that first, maybe a bit of attention on the infrastructure that can be easily removed and changed without having to spend a single dollar, is to get rid of these autonomous zones that have been responsible for the arson and murder of individuals across this nation, having billions of dollars of damage to infrastructure that is going to take decades to resolve. Perhaps that would be the first thing we should attain, the first thing that we should tackle, because it is the easiest thing for us to tackle. And then we can have a conversation about the infrastructure bill that Joe Biden has suggested, which again is an idea that according to USA Today, is showing that most of the spending isn't on infrastructure. It's on creating unions. It's on creating Green New Deal. It's creating green energy jobs, something that failed under the Obama administration. And we went into great detail describing this in our article on April 1st, going over the American Jobs Plan fail, the Obama Infrastructure 2.0, that is the Biden administration idea. And we recommend that you can look at that at your leisure. So we're mentioning this to get back to the point. So we were having our First Amendment right, sharing it with our elected official, in this case, Senator Gillibrand, and saying there is an alternative, there is a different way to look at this, and there are some immediate actions that we can do that can improve the infrastructure in the United States for the citizens of the United States, and it would cost $0. This is something that we should be able to do. But that's not exactly what happened here. Now, the thing that struck us is after making that statement, we received a comment from an individual saying, "You need to move to Alabama." Really? Why? Why would anyone speaking to their elected official as a constituent be told by someone who is not identified as a constituent, telling them, get out the state? Effectively saying exactly the same thing that Governor Cuomo said. Leave the state. If you don't like it, leave. Well, that's not what the American government is built on. That is not what the First Amendment says. That's not what the Constitution says, nor the Declaration of Independence. In fact, what they say is we have the right, and some would even say the obligation, to speak to our elected officials. So our response to the non-constituent was, why must I move? Am I not a resident? Am I not communicating with one of the elected officials that is obligated to follow the majority views of constituents? Is it not intolerant, an intolerant view of both the New York State and U.S. politics, seeking to present a blanket of thought that does not exist? Perhaps you mean that my views would be more common in another state, but even if unpopular in this state, New York, the answer is not to go away or to be ostracized, which does not factor in that we are talking about national domestic policy that is not limited to a single state. So that's an important thing. Why should we be silenced? Why should anyone be silenced because they have a view that is different than the majority? This is the exact argument that's made very often by members of BLM and the far left. Oh, well, the trans rights are not something that is a national issue. It is a minority of individuals that have that issue. Black Lives Matters. The entire movement is based on a minority view of American politics and American policy, and that of defunding police is a minority view held by extremists of a singular political party. But yet they get to speak, and they should be able to peacefully protest. No one would consider silencing them to be a good thing. In fact, we have heard over and over from the news media and politicians that we should never silence these individuals as they speak, even if they are in a minority, even if their viewpoints are unpopular, because they have a right by the First Amendment. A right that we have seen continuously being rejected by individuals like Governor Andrew Cuomo and many others that would seek to silence American citizens when they speak up because they don't like what they're being told. In fact, we know this for a fact when we said we had a disagreement about a candidate in a school board race that took place yesterday. And we had put forth a challenge. And we did so both by documentation with the school board and now the Commissioner of Commissioner of Education of New York. But also we made that public for the American people to know, so that voters would be aware of all the issues that were ongoing, even as the news media ignored it. And for that, we were told by various far left groups and individuals that to even question an election, to question a candidate and their candidacy, well, the answer is, well, you must be transphobic. I would like to show you the page, but I can't because these individuals have since blocked us, and so we cannot see nor respond. But their answer is, well, it's transphobic. Again, trying to ostracize and to isolate and to throw out speech and to follow the actual rules and laws and regulations that exist in our nation. There are rules that say you can challenge a candidate if you believe you have standing, and you have the right to appeal that if you have lost and you believe that your reason stands. And in fact, our reasoning for the challenge of the school board is unprecedented. There is no law, no regulation, never has there been a challenge based on what we challenged in New York State. It is new law. And therefore, it should be investigated by all of the highest levels of our government to understand what is the answer to this new law, this new precedent. Rather than calling us transphobes, rather than saying that we should move, that's not what America is about. That's not what free speech is about. It's not move somewhere else. It's not be silent because we don't like you. We don't like what you have to say because it doesn't appeal to our political agenda. No. Instead, the answer should be, let your voice be heard. The response that we received on that is the reason why we made this video. The answer that we received, and you can see it here, and I'm going to try and see if we have a image that I can blow up a little bit better. So we're going to try and give you a better view of this so you can see this. And the response was, nothing you said follows the majority of New York residents' views. They would fit well in Alabama. Your opinion is allowed and noted. It is simply a waste of time. What? A waste of time? It's allowed? That's a misrepresentation. And this is a common misrepresentation being put forth by fringe elements of political parties, assuming that they have power to approve what can and cannot be said. To say that it is allowed is to say that it is approved, that we're going to give you a chance to speak, but you shouldn't. That if we had chose not to allow it, if we didn't like it enough, we would have stopped you from speaking, that you don't have that voice. And whether you're a minority or majority point, it doesn't matter. It is that your voice is being allowed. This is a misconception that was started in many ways back in 2014 under Governor Cuomo, when he said that he had the choice of who resides in New York State, which is a lie, and that he doesn't have this power to decide who can and cannot be in this state. And this is a problem. So when we heard this, we were shocked, we were amazed, and we were discouraged. And more importantly, we realized this isn't no longer about infrastructure. This is about freedom of speech. This is about the ability of anyone watching this, anyone seeing this on social media and saying to themselves, I don't want to be called out. I don't want to be attacked for saying, I don't think the infrastructure plan under Biden is the best plan, that it doesn't focus enough actually on infrastructure. Anyone who would want to say that, whether they happen to be a Democrat, a Libertarian, a conservative, a Republican, it doesn't matter if they were white, black, gay, straight, trans, it doesn't matter. If an individual says there may be a better policy for America that we should maybe investigate or to review, and there are ways to help improve America that don't cost money and only involve following the law as it exists, then those individuals are going to see this viewpoint, which is being at this moment is being supported. And you may be able to see that there are several people who are liking this view, as you can see right here. These individuals are liking this view. They are supporting this view. And these individuals are making it more popular to say, no, you can be silenced, that you are only able to say things that you are allowed. And the fact that people are not recognizing that and saying, this is a problem, is scary. We went on to say in our opinion of this, and in our comment of it, we said, that is your opinion. Even if it were fact which is not clear, suggesting people with different opinions should be shunned, which is the effect of your statement. Chilling free speech is inherently a problem. I reject your position and suggestion. By the way, my comment is not allowed. It is a fundamental right that I can express without approval, even if it could be considered a statement of the minority. Further, silencing thoughts on critical issues is not only dangerous to the First Amendment, it is the fastest way to instill the very worst aspects of any government. My time and my voice are never a waste, just as any peaceful and respectful comment of any citizen. You may not agree. You may not see its value, but you don't get to decide what is of value. Follow that line of action, and not long from now, your own thoughts and positions will be next on the chopping block. Because if you silence one form of free speech, you silence all forms of free speech. You silence all individuals. Because at some point, that ruling elite body, those in control of approval and disapproval, are going to come for you. And we have seen that. We have seen that with YouTube. We've seen that with Facebook as they get rid of millions of accounts and deny millions of individuals the ability to speak. We have seen that and the protests and the autonomous zones. By definition, autonomous zones in America that still exist deny American citizens the ability to have free speech. They have hostages, Americans who are incapable of being able to live by the rules and the laws and the Constitution of our nation. And they're done, and that is being done so by strength of violence. Individuals who, through their own power, have usurped territories of the United States and, again, are holding American citizens hostage, denying them free speech. This is a problem. This is an issue for everyone in America. And this is troubling when I hear individuals who are saying, well, you are allowed to say something, and I'm going to allow it just because I don't like it. Or maybe I won't. And there's a problem. And people who are questioning whether they should speak up or not are seeing this and are being told, oh, if you speak up, you may be targeted. You are going to be told to leave. You're going to be ostracized, whether that be online and done so by the social media internet overlords, and they will deplatform you, silencing your voice, or by individuals who may not even be constituents in your area. They may not be part of your community, and they will still come after you to ostracize you, to attack you, and to tell you to go away, to be silent. Whether that being silent is being told that you have to go to another state, like Alabama, as is suggested here, or whether those individuals are telling you that if you speak up, you're a phobe, you're an ist, you're someone who should never be heard from. We reject that. And we reject the trend that we are seeing that has been emphasized by Governor Cuomo back in 2014 and continues to this day. And what we see now from groups of individuals like Antifa, BLM, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, Citizen Action, these fringe political groups and these quasi-political organizations that are seeking to silence American citizens because they have a political agenda. That is the worst reason to object to someone's free speech that I have ever heard, and has led to the most damage in the world for every group where that has occurred. Perhaps you think I'm wrong. Maybe you don't think it's a big deal. Listening to people follow the direction of Governor Cuomo, maybe you think, well, Governor Cuomo is right. Maybe you think the easiest answer is just move, just leave. Follow what these people are saying and get out of Dodge. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the best way. We don't improve America by isolating and separating ourselves from other individuals with different ideas. I don't believe that it's the best thing in America to condone punishing people, ostracizing people, silencing people just because they have a different point of view, as long as that view is expressed peacefully. That is the problem that America is facing right now. It is a First Amendment issue, and it has many ramifications. We see it in infrastructure, we see it in our government, in our leaders that have been elected, and shouldn't even call them leaders, the individuals that have been elected to office and those who have sought elected office. But we want to hear what you have to say. Do you believe that this is a First Amendment concern? Do you think that there is a growing problem where individuals are being isolated and told that they cannot speak, and that when they do speak, they will be punished for what they have to say, even when those things are peaceful? What will this mean for America going forward? We look forward to hearing your thought, not only today on this view, but also in the future, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when we have our live stream, and we invite everyone from across the world to join us and to add your voice. We thank you, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.